I mean, that's all.
All right. So I'm going to start with, let's see. This is already not going well, but let's see. Okay, I'm going to start by just showing you this. This right here is what, this is, if you got these scores, basically half on the multiple choice and a 4 out of 6 on the 3 essays, which would be a 130, yeah, with 1 for the thesis and then 3 out of 4 for the development, you could get a passing score of a 3. So it's very doable. And so the next thing is that the thing that the College Board is really pushing this year is line of reasoning. It's a big deal. If an essay doesn't have a line of reasoning, that's going to be a problem for the student. So I wanted to show you real quick a couple of kind of hacks for having a line of making sure that in a timed writing setting you have a good line of reasoning. So this is the thing I've shown you before where students have kind of been taught to write where they have a thesis and then they just have a bunch of body paragraphs that connect to the thesis. But in order to have a line of reasoning, it has to connect vertically. You know, there has to be, these have to connect up. And so a couple of hacks that I was suggesting is one is like this idea that I've talked about this idea of a relay race where each paragraph needs to be able to reach back to the paragraph previous to it and sort of connect in that way. And there are a couple ways that you can do that, like quickly. One, and I'm going to show you this, is that if you use words, like say you're working on your second body paragraph, if you go back and look at the end of your first body paragraph and use some of the same words, like actually the same words that are in the capstone sentence of body paragraph 1, use those in your claim for body paragraph 2, it creates continuity for the reader. And another thing you can do is to use transitional words and phrases and so forth in your claims. That's an easy way to be like, additionally, you know, or on the other hand, if you do that, that is creating line of reasoning. Okay. So that's something I want to look at as we're looking at these sample essays. So I want to show you some sample essays from each kind of essay. I'm going to show you essays. Each of these essays got a 130, which is, as I said, if you can get a 130 and get a pretty average score in multiple choice, then you're going to get potentially college credit. So this, so when you sit down to write the essays, they're going to give you 135 minutes, and they're going to, and that means you get technically, or not technically, but theoretically, you get 15 minutes to read the synthesis sources, and then you get 40 minutes per essay to write. And so the first essay they provide to you is the synthesis. And so last year's seniors, if you have any friends who are seniors last year, this is what they wrote. It's about STEM. And so the first paragraph is always giving you context for what STEM is and stuff. And then the second paragraph is always giving you the prompt. And so the prompt in this case that they had to write was synthesize material from at least 3 sources, got to use 3 sources, and develop your position on the value, if any, of initiatives to improve STEM education and increase the number of students interested in the STEM discipline. But the point is, you have 3 choices. You can defend it. You can say it's so valuable in every way, or you can say it's not valuable, or you can say it depends. You know, you've got all the choices. But that's, you have to. So let's go look at what the 130 is. So we're going to scroll by the 141, so you can kind of tell that like there's a lot of writing. You know, whatever, we can look at it, but we're not going to. You can look at it if you want later. But the 130 is this. Okay, so we'll look at the intro, and then I'll kind of quick look at the bodies. The intro is, you know, America's image as an innovation and education hub has slowed, and much of this can be attributed to the unsatisfactory implementation of STEM. So that's their hook, you know, and they probably got that information from the prompt. They probably just regurgitated it. And then their thesis is, because of the increasing need in STEM job opportunities, the incentives to retain America's position as an innovation economy, and the importance of suppressing the decay of American aptitude in STEM subjects, there is great value improving STEM education and interests. Okay, so they just got their 1 point. They would have gotten their 1 point even if they had said there is great, none of this stuff, but just there is great value. They took a position. The nice thing about this thesis is they took a position, and then up here they wrote why they have that position. So they have a what and a why. So then you can see they use a transitional language, the word first. Like it seems like not a big deal, but they literally put the word as just using the first word first is going to get you some, they're going to see that you're creating a line of reasoning. STEM focused curriculum must, now on this one, I just want to show you kind of the format that they used to develop body paragraphs. They said, claim, first, STEM focused curriculum must improve because America's struggling internationally in STEM subjects. So they have a what, it must improve, and they have a why, because America's struggling internationally. Then they go straight to evidence, no BS, just in source A, the author points to the Program for International Student Assessment, which ranks 15-year-olds internationally in STEM subjects. America made headlines by, quote, sliding in global ranking in math, reading, and science, okay? So that's just basically them giving you a chunk of the same piece of evidence. And they use source A. You don't have to say this, whatever it is, you just say source A. Now you see they transition to their commentary. This shows, so they're talking about this evidence, that there is value in increasing STEM education because other countries are rising over America in education. And in order to change that narrative, there must be an increase in K-12 education in STEM. Okay, so they basically had a claim, evidence, commentary, then a capstone sentence. By putting more value into improving of STEM and the increasing of access in STEM education, America can retain its position as a top nation in education. Okay. Now here you can see whenever I was telling you about the continuity, look at this, increasing access in STEM. And here they say increasing STEM. So by using those same thing, there's creating some continuity. But then this is the second, they use that, and they use the transitional language, and then the format's the same. It's just going to be a claim, evidence, commentary, capstone. And that's what they did 3 times. And then their conclusion has a restatement of the thesis and a restatement of the so what. America must improve STEM education in order to present workers with the capability to work jobs, blah, blah, blah. And then here's their so what. By investing in STEM education, America will benefit as the workforce will be capable and the economy in turn will prosper. So it's make sure that you leave the reader with a so what. Okay, so that's the synthesis. Then the next essay you're going to have to write is rhetorical analysis. Okay, this one is, did I lose it? I lost it. Sorry, this rhetorical analysis was, we don't see the speech, but basically it's a speech by Sonia Sotomayor, who is now a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. At the time, she was she was something else. She was first appeals court judge, and it's called A Latina Judge's Voice. And the prompt at the end, you want to pay attention. It says, write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Sotomayor uses to convey her message about her identity. All right, so that's the job of the student. We'll skip past the 141. Go to the 130. Yeah.
Did you ever find out if you can do the essays out of order?
You can, but it's not recommended. Yeah, but yes, you can.
What would be the not recommended?
So the question, I'm recording this. So the question was, can you do the essays out of order? And the reason that it's not particularly recommended is the synthesis is the most sort of demanding, because you have to read all the that's usually the first one, because you have to read all the sources, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of in order from most demanding to least demanding, sort of, So argument is the one you can most easily BS, and that's the third one. So, but it's totally, if you have a strategy that works for you, write them out of order. Yeah.
You have a question? I had a question about the last one.
Oh yeah.
It was just it probably affects this one too. But
oh yeah.
Do you actually have to? You were saying how you don't need to put all that stuff in the intro paragraph. Does that give you more points, or is it just helpful for you when you're writing it?
Okay, so you're asking the intro paragraph?
Yeah, you were they still get the point there, even if.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that I guess yes, it does. I think it's a good idea. So the things I think are a good idea to have for sure in the introductory paragraph is restating the prompt a little bit. Just kind of, what I mean? Same thing you've done. It's you literally look at the prompt. You literally look at this. I didn't read it with you, but this part here. This part here, for example, in the synthesis where they give you all this background, you kind of summarize that as your first piece. If you would summarize that as your first sentence or two, and then you just go and you have a thesis, then you're good. That's not going to be a make or break. If you do more than that, that's fine. But if you do less, it's not going to hurt you.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing. It does apply to all, because you can see here, what this person did is they did a little hook. You can do a hook if you want, but don't if you can't think of anything, move on. But they said, while the United States is home to much diversity, it also frequently overshadows these different cultures in the name of equality. So that's like this little hook they came up with. What I want you to see is, again, the formula that works and that you should do if you just are just trying to get it out is on the rhetorical analysis is to restate the basic rhetorical situation. So you go and with rhetorical analysis is you look at all this stuff they give you right here, all this crap, you restate it.
Okay.
You know, so what this is really when, where, what, why of the speech. So you kind of want to restate some of the when, where, what, why, and you'll see that what this student does is, is this synthesis? No. What this student does is, Sonia cited, okay, so who, when, that's actually says 2001, where, so it looks like cool. I know, I would love if they said that. So it's got the who, when, and the where, right? All in they put that in the thesis. You could put it in a separate sentence. And then they have this very, like, barely even a thesis statement that did get the point. Sonia Sotomayor highlights her experiences and the cultural significances of her life as a Latina woman. Like, that's their thesis. It's not very good.
Okay.
Like, you should really be listing the rhetorical strategies you're going to talk about in your thesis. And then the few things I want to point out about the way they developed this. First of all, this is an absolutely terrible essay, and I got a 130, which is good for you guys. Good for you, yeah. So they always, you remember, rhetorical analysis is you're starting with the author. Sotomayor, she, Sotomayor, like you're talking about what is the author doing? That's your job, right? You use power verbs. You use opens her speech by developing, right? If you're picking your verbs carefully or semi-carefully, you're already doing analysis, right? The analysis comes from power verbs and descriptive language. Sometimes there's a little more into it than that. But so she opens her speech by developing her position as a New Yorker, a Puerto Rican, and a woman. Okay, then they move to their commentary. So theoretically, this is supposed to be evidence. This serves to establish her position in giving this speech. So why is the author doing this? To establish her position, power verb, and provide a basis for experience with culture in America to build off of. Okay, that's good. So they know what she's why she's starting that way. Then they use a transitional word, so easy. Secondly, Sotomayor provides, power verb, descriptive language, vivid, eloquent descriptions of meals, music, and games shared with her friends and family, right? So we got some descriptive language. We know what she's in a piece of evidence, even though it's not really a piece of evidence. Then we have the commentary. This allows for the audience to gain an understanding of the similarities and differences in cultures. It also paints. So this is a place where I think they probably were able to get that 3, is that when you can say different purposes of a single piece of evidence, that's a good sign that you know what you're doing.
Okay.
So, but mainly I want you to see also that, like, look, gain, paint, paints, leads, like, so lead into, and then one of the things this student is doing is they're really tracking her line of reasoning, the authors, because they say the beginning gives her something to build off of, and then here they say the second part leads into her explanation of the importance of culture, right? So they're kind of seeing her line of reasoning. And then lastly, Sotomayor chooses detail. So it's really amazing because there are almost no quotes in this thing, but they managed to get 130. And it says the conclusion again is just restating Sonia Sotomayor's take on the intermingling of cultures in America provides a perfect example of independent cultures coinciding together by taking the audiences through their personal cultural experiences right along with her. I mean, you're just kind of restating like what was her approach to this speech.
Okay.
And and the thing I'll show you is like this one. I mean, again, I'm shocked that it got a 130, but it got your thesis point, right? And then this one says the response uniformly offers evidence in the form of references, right? So it's not direct quotes, but it's like, okay, we know that they saw that she did this. There is a line of reasoning. The commentary offers explanations that focus on, but then they're getting into anyway, whatever. But so questions on this one?
No.
Okay. So but the thing I want to say about this one is like kind of a do as I say, not as you just saw, is use short quotes. Like this person, I cannot guarantee you that you can write an essay that's crappy and get a 130 this year. So just use short quotes. We've done it all year. Keep doing it. Okay. So this is the essay that people always are short on time because they've kind of like the timekeeper will say, it's now time to move on to such and such essay, but you don't have to. It's all in one book. So what happens is people are running late, whatever, and then they have like 20 minutes for argument, which is not the end of the world, but it is good to keep track of your time. So the argument prompt was Colin Powell, a general and Secretary of State, wrote in his autobiography. So when they give you a quote, pay attention to what the quote says. You have to pay attention. It says, "We do not have the luxury of collecting information indefinitely. At some point, before we can have every possible fact in hand, we have to decide. The key is not to make quick decisions, but to make timely decisions." Okay. Then it asks you to argue your position on the extent to which his claim about making decisions is valid. That is, again, defend, challenge, qualify, right? He's right. You should always make quick decisions, or you should not make quick decisions, you make timely decisions. Or he's wrong, or it depends on the situation. Sometimes you should make quick, you just say.
Yeah.
Right? And then what I'll show you in this is that that's good. On their introduction. Oh no, sorry, this is the 141. The big things on argument for you to think about are line of reasoning and evidence. You have got to have evidence, and it needs to be real evidence. So this person, they have their thesis. It says, "I agree with his claim because this effectiveness of making timely decisions and ineffectiveness of quick decisions." Okay, so they got the point. And then they tell you that you don't have to do this, but they tell you that their evidence, that what they're going to talk about is that they're going to talk about COVID, they're talking about Fed increase of interest rates recently. Here's when I saw the word COVID and the word Fed capitalized, I thought they're in good shape because they're using proper nouns. That means they're using real, actual things that happened, right? There's a difference between a hypothetical example and a real example. Okay? And then they basically just talk you through things that happened during COVID, and they really talk you through it. They're like, vaccines, whatever. If they made a timely decisions about vaccines that save people's lives. And then later they talked about a quick decision that was made that didn't go well. So they're basically saying, look, I agree with them because if you make timely decisions, good things happen. If you make quick decisions, bad things can happen. And then their conclusion is again, restate your thesis, restate your so what. Quick decisions can be impulsive and carry a lot of risk. They may be effective in certain cases, but they should not be prioritized. Instead, timely decisions should be made. Something blah, blah, blah is important. Time something, just something in order to maximize the probability that the desired consequence takes place. Boom. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was kind of using you for my... And why is it reading an hour and one?
We spent an hour on this.
No, we didn't spend Okay, that's different.